soft tissues. So this is the fourth topic for the midterm. Next week we'll have the PNS, curricular nervous system, and also the week before our midterm examination. So naturally we have the skeletal system comprising around or more or less 206 bones in adults and more in the newborns, around 270. The function are for mechanical support and protects the organs that are inside, and also it houses the hematopoietic elements and also responsible for mineral homeostasis. The composition of inorganic and organic elements: inorganic matrix 65%, organic matrix 35%, mostly comprised of collagen, particularly type 1 collagen, glycosaminoglycan, and other proteins. Some important proteins to remember is osteocalcin, that is produced by osteoblast. So this is responsible for regulation of bone formation, mineralization, calcium levels, and also could be a marker for the activity of the osteoblast itself. So the bony tissues are said to be dynamic. So the bone maturation and metabolism are sensitive to the levels of cytokines and other growth factors. And with these levels of these different mediators, they will somewhat perform the function in homeostasis in the modeling and remodeling of bone. So there are several cells that is present in the bony tissues. So we have osteoprogenitor cells, the osteoblasts, osteocytes, the osteoclast. Osteoprogenitor cells are pluripotent mesenchymal stem cells that are seen in surfaces of bony tissues. So osteoprogenitor cells, and they give rise to osteoblast. So here we have the osteoblast, the osteocytes, and the osteoclast. The osteoblasts are located on the surface of the bony tissues. Then we also have osteocytes and the osteoclast, which is comprised of a multinucleated giant cells, while we have the osteocytes here and the osteoblast at the surface of bony tissues. So osteoblasts, as mentioned, at the surface of bony tissues, they are responsible for synthesis, transport, the arrangement of protein, regulate mineralization. So they are sensitive to levels of hormones, cytokines, and growth factors. They may transform to osteocytes if deposited by organic matrix. Okay, so here is the osteoblast at the surface of bony tissues. So osteocytes, they tend to communicate with each other through canaliculi with their cytoplasmic processes. So osteocytes help control in the level of calcium and phosphate, and usually they are also responsible for detecting mechanical forces, changes that may be translated to biologic activity. So osteocytes, again. Then we have the osteoclast. So osteoprogenitor cells, osteoblasts, and osteocytes are responsible for synthesis or forming bony tissues, while osteoclasts are responsible for bone resorption. So these are derived from hematopoietic progenitor cells that may be regulated by macrophage colony-stimulating factors and other cytokines like interleukins and tumor necrosis factors. They are located at resorption fields, house-shaped lacunae. They have irregular border to increase their surface area. So usually they remove the minerals in the bone by generating an acidic environment. So they secrete acid and neutral proteases, predominantly the matrix metalloproteinases. So again, we have the osteoblast, the bony matrix with osteocyte, then the osteoclast. So osteoclast, osteocyte, and the osteoblast, the surface. So during bone development, it may begin with an 8-week of gestation. The bone is formed through and chondral ossification. We have primary and secondary center for ossification. Bone development may also be through intramembranous ossification, wherein bony tissues are formed by osteoblasts directly from fibrous layer of tissue, like in the cranial bone and the area of the clavicle. So bony tissues may also contain the hematopoietic elements, the red marrow, which is responsible for production of red cells as well as some of the white cells. So red marrow with activity mostly in all bones in children, and to a lesser extent in adults, konti na lang ng bone from ribs, vertebra, pelvic bone, and skull. So the remaining, some of the bony tissues may also contain yellow marrow. So during the development of bone, there are several factors that are responsible in modeling and remodeling of bone. So this would be dependent in a complex interplay of several factors as enumerated here, from the growth hormone, thyroid hormone, to bone morphogenic proteins. And these factors, together with the cellularity of bones, are responsible for regulation of bone homeostasis. Several receptors may also be present, and also the different pathways like the WNT beta-catenin pathway that is responsible for production of osteoprotein. So bone formation and resorption are tightly coupled and affected, as we mentioned, by several factors like levels of vitamin D, nutritional state, physical activity of the individual. Aging is also important, then the cytokines and growth factors and hormones. So the bony matrix protein mostly of type 1 collagen. So the bony tissues are composed mostly of lamellar bone in adult. This is normal. But during development, we have woven bone, which is said to be a random width and normal in fetal skeleton and in growth plates. But when seen in adults, woven bone, supposedly they are suggestive for pathologic state. Okay, so we also have cell adhesion proteins, calcium binding proteins, proteins involved in mineralization that are responsible for the modeling and remodeling of bone. Okay, the unique cellularity in bones, we mentioned osteocyte, osteoblast, and osteoclast. So modeling is bone formation early in life, remodeling is breakdown and renewal of bone in adult. So let's have the genetic abnormalities in bones, cells, matrix, and structures. So we have dysostosis, a problem or abnormality in the migration of mesenchymal cells, while dysplasias are mutations in the regulators of skeletal organogenesis. So diseases with defects in nuclear proteins and transcription proteins, we have the following. We have syndactylism, the disfusion of digits, congenital absence of bone, we have anencephaly, arachnodactylism, supernumerary digits like polydactyly, and cranial species wherein there's failure of closure of the spinal cord and the skull. Those abnormalities or defects in hormones and signal transduction proteins. So given in your book, we have achondroplasia and thanatophoric dwarfism. So achondroplasia is the major cause of dwarfism. It's most common disease of the growth plate. The pattern of inheritance is autosomal dominant, but may also be coming from de novo, 80%, as mentioned also or described in the chapter of genetics. So in achondroplasia, the abnormality is a mutation in gene for the FGF receptor 3, which causes inhibition of proliferation of cartilage. The condition achondroplasia, this is actually the case that we see mostly in our community. So that the abnormality is mostly on the proliferation of the cartilage. So skeletal abnormalities that we see is not associated with longevity as well as intelligence and productive status. So that a condition may be proliferated as well as they may live similarly. So some of them may be successful kasi hindi naman affected yung kanilang intelligence. And thanatophoric dwarfism is said to be the most common lethal form of dwarfism. The abnormality is also in FGFR3 in different mutation. The associated manifestation would be shortening and micromelic, shortening of the limbs, together with macrocephaly, small chest cavity, and bell-shaped abdomen. So with this small chest cavity, it may lead to respiratory insufficiency and causing death at birth. The change in thanatophoric dwarfism is similar to the previous, wherein there is diminished proliferation of chondrocyte as well. So other abnormalities associated with bony formation are defects in extracellular structural proteins. So abnormal metabolism of collagen type 1, which is osteogenesis imperfecta. Other abnormalities may be associated with other types of collagen may be encountered as well to a lesser extent or frequency. So in osteogenesis imperfecta, it's also called a brittle bone disease, which is said to be the most common inherited disorder of connective tissues, and the deficiency in the synthesis of type 1 collagen. So autosomal dominant mutation in genes that encode for alpha-1 and alpha-2 chains of this type of collagen. The manifestation would include extreme skeletal fragility, presence of bluish sclerae, hearing loss, small misshapen blue-yellow teeth. There are 4 subtypes with osteogenesis imperfecta, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 are said to be compatible with life, and 2 being the most fatal, particularly in the uterus. So they tend to be lethal, yung type 2. So these are the 4 subtypes. The type 1 and type 2 are both autosomal dominant and compatible with life. Osteogenesis imperfecta, the abnormality is that there is too little bone that is being formed. Morphology, what we see would be a marked cortical thinning, attenuated trabeculae with improper modeling and persistent foci of woven bone. So there is thinning of the area of the cortices. So abnormalities associated with defects in folding and degradation of macromolecules. So under this, we have mucopolysaccharidosis, which is a group of lysosomal storage diseases with deficiency in acid hydrolase enzymes that degrade glycose or aminoglycan. So many of these diseases, mucopolysaccharidosis, acidosis are described under the chapter of genetics. So defects in metabolic pathways, we have osteopetrosis, a rare condition with a reduce in the activity of the osteoclast. So osteoclast responsible for bone resorption that may result into a diffuse symmetric skeletal sclerosis. So this condition is also called marble bone disease or Albert-Schoenberg disease. So with the decreased activity of the osteoclast, there is deposition of fibrous material leading to sclerosis, forming a stone-like quality of bones. Even with the deposition of these sclerotic materials, the bones tend to be weak and they are brittle and fractured like a chalk. Some of these conditions are associated with autosomal dominant and autosomal recessive pattern of inheritance. In osteopetrosis, there is interference in the process of acidification in the resorption pits. So hence, the activity of the osteoclast is affected. Likewise, the bones may lack medullary canal because of filling up of the materials inside this area wherein the hematopoietic element should be. So filled up by primary spongiosa so that it will lead to anemia for the patient. The characteristic appearance via imaging is presence of Erlenmeyer-Flask deformity. So you remember the Erlenmeyer-Flask in chemistry, so wide base with a long, narrow neck, just like this appearance. So bone is said to be woven and not remodeled. So in osteopetrosis, the manifestations would include, sabi natin kanina, brittle, so fractures, filling up the medullary cavity, anemia. It may also present with hydrocephaly, recurrent infection, and cranial deficit. For severe anemia, it may be treated with bone marrow transplantation. Next condition associated with decreased bone mass. So we have osteoporosis. So take note, magkalapit yung terminology. Osteopetrosis and osteoporosis. So do not interchange the two. So osteoporosis, there is a decrease in bone mass that will be associated with primary condition as well as secondary condition. So primary condition brought about by aging and postmenopausal women. Secondary may be associated for other secondary diseases like endocrine disorders, malignancy, gastrointestinal abnormalities, as well as drug intake. The involvement may be localized to generalized. Localized is usually associated with disuse, while generalized mostly metabolic in causation. So osteoporosis associated with aging. Usually in aging, there may be diminished capacity of osteoblasts as well as decrease in their biologic activity. So during aging as well, there may be reduced physical activity. So that's why we need to do exercise. So genetic factors may also be involved, the level of calcium in the diet, as well as hormone influence, particularly in women with decrease in estrogen post-menopausal. So in osteoporosis, the condition may bring about thinning of the trabeculae. With thinning of the trabeculae, so there will be weakening in the bony structures. There is progressive microfractures. It may lead also to vertebral collapse. So the cortex are thin and tend to be porous. Diagnosis via imaging, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, and quantitative computed tomography. So these are the usual investigative process for diagnosing osteoporosis. Biopsy may be done, but this is an invasive procedure. So treatment may be involved with biphosphonates, but of course, preventive would be doing exercise, appropriate intake of calcium and vitamin D. Diseases that are caused by osteoclast dysfunction. So we have Paget's disease, also called as osteitis deformans. They may undergo 3 phases: osteolytic, then we have osteosclerotic, and a mixed osteoclastic and osteoblastic phases. So in osteoclast dysfunction, we have the condition mostly in late adulthood at around 70 years old. The cause is not ascertained, and it will suggest an interplay between genetic susceptibility as well as environmental factors. What is seen in Paget's disease is an enlarged bone with thick coarse cortices and presence of cancellous bone. So in Paget's disease, the hallmark is the mosaic pattern of lamellar bone. We'll take note para silang jigsaw puzzle that they tend to fit with each other like a mosaic pattern. So bone is, the bone form is larger than normal with coarsely thickened trabeculae, soft and porous cortices. Manifestation associated with Paget's disease may include pain in that area, leontiasis osseosa, leonin palsy in appearance, platybasia, flattening of the skull base, bowing of femur and the tibia, and also they may be associated with a chopstick type of fractures. Also, this condition may be associated with formation of tumor and other tumor-like condition from a benign to a malignant sarcoma. So diagnosis, X-ray, we see a typically enlarged with thickening coarsened cortices and cancellous bone. Laboratory-wise, we may see also elevated alkali phosphatase as well as hydroxyproline in the urine. So treatment given with biphosphonate and calcitonin. Abnormal mineral homeostasis seen in rickets and osteomalacia, hyperparathyroidism, and renal osteoarthritis. So rickets is a defect in mineralization in children lacking vitamin D. So manifestation associated with this particularly would be the presence of rachitic rosary, pigeon breast, and Harrison's blue. Rachitic rosary, there is a nodular lesion between the union of the cartilage and the rib bone in the chest that may look like beads of rosary, hence the name. And pigeon breast, there is somewhat elevation of the chest wall at the anterior surface. Hindi naman kailangan pigeon, di ba? Whether in chicken, kung hindi kayo mahilig sa pigeon, pwede rin. Then we also have Harrison's blue. There is an indentation below the chest wall. Other skeletal abnormalities, we have bowing of the legs and lumbar lordosis. So ano yung lordosis? Naka-liyak. Lordosis, L, liyak. Pagka yung isa, kyphosis, K, uba. Osteomalacia, lack of vitamin D in adults. So these are the ranges from bone remodeling. So osteomatrix is adequately mineralized so that the bone is weak and prone to fractures. Hyperparathyroidism would be resulting from a primary or secondary condition. Primary condition associated with hyperparathyroidism are hyperplasia of the parathyroid glands, or there is a formation of a tumor, particularly of parathyroid adenomas. So usually, pagka hyperplasia, most gland would be involved. Pagka adenoma, usually solitary. While secondary causes of hyperparathyroidism may be associated with prolonged states of hypocalcemia. With increase in secretion of parathyroid hormone, there may also be accompanying increase in osteoclast activity that may lead to bone or increase in bone resorption. So what we see would be the presence of dissecting osteitis. Dissecting osteitis, the osteoclasts have an increase in the activity so that they form a tunnel and dissect centrally along the length of bony trabeculae that may appear as a railroad track. with this increased activity of the osteoclast, it may lead to formation of microfracture brought about by bone loss, and these microfracture plus inflammatory cells, macrophages, and reactive fibrous tissue will form a tumor-like condition we call brown tumor. Sometimes this brown tumor may further undergo cystic degeneration. So cystic brown tumor together with increased bone cell activity and peritobrachial fibrosis is called ostitis fibrosa cystica. Renal osteodystrophy are skeletal changes associated with chronic renal disease. So what are these changes? Increased osteoclast bone resorption, delayed matrix mineralization, osteosclerosis, growth retardation, and osteoporosis. So with chronic renal failure, there is a resultant retention of phosphate. And hyperphosphatemia induces a secondary hyperparathyroidism. So hyperparathyroidism, hypocalcemia develops and levels of vitamin D decreases due to the damaged kidney. So with elevation or secondary hyperparathyroidism produces an increased osteoclast activity. Bone fractures. So bone fractures, so in surgery they may be classified as two, whether they are complete, incomplete, closed or open fracture, comminuted or displaced fractures, or may be associated with other disease states like tumor in the area, mainly to pathologic fractures, or also whether in stress fractures. So with bone fractures, what we see are some reparative mechanism here. So here is the area with bony tissues. May area ng callus formation. So from initial hemorrhage and hematoma, there is formation of soft tissue callus, formation of woven bone, then cartilage formation which will later on undergo enchondral ossification. So that this bony callus will mature and remodel to form a normal lamellar bone later on. So another magnification with formation. So ito yung mga bony tissues, yung callus formation, now going into a mature bony tissue. Complication of healing in bone injury would be the following: delayed union or non-union of this bony tissue, formation of pseudojoint or pseudoarthrosis, formation or development of infection. So with just fracture, so treatment is to align that bone, kasi kung na-display siya, malform siya, so i-align muna, then immobilize. So that usually they tend to heal by its own. So if there's difficulty with reduction in bony tissues, sometimes we also use peelings or even metal plates. Osteonecrosis. Osteonecrosis is brought about by ischemia, leading to infarction of the bone as well as the contents, the marrow. So associated with osteonecrosis are many conditions, from trauma to infection, dysbarisms, changes in pressures, exposure to radiation, and even pregnancy, alcohol, and some malignancy. Medullary infarcts tend to be spotty in appearance, while subchondral infarcts tend to be wedge-shaped. So here is a subchondral infarct with wedge-shaped appearance, with meeting planes of the healing of bony tissues together with areas of necrosis. So this is called the area wherein there is creeping substitution. Osteomyelitis. So there is inflammation in the bone as well as in the marrow. So this is usually associated with infectious agents, from bacterial to other types of infectious agents. So primarily, they may spread through hematogenous extension, or direct implantation. So most common organisms that have been associated with pyogenic infection is Staphylococcus aureus. Some other organisms have been associated as well, and in some cases, there may be no organism that is with you. So osteomyelitis may produce an abscess that may be located subperiosteally. A Brodie's abscess is a small intraosseous abscess that frequently involves the cortex and walled off by a reactive bone, forming an area of lesion. So in osteomyelitis, there is also formation of sequestrum and involucrum. Sequestrum is a dead piece of bone, while involucrum is a newly deposited bone that forms sleeve of living tissue around a segment of revitalized bone. So here we have Brodie's abscess. Histologically, abscess formation, numerous neutrophils with fragments of revitalized bone. Fragments of revitalized bone and the abscess formation. So in osteomyelitis, manifestation would be fever, but there may be associated chills, body weakness, leukocytosis, pain in that affected area. Treatment is mostly medical by giving antibiotics, but in some instances they will be resistant to treatment of antibiotics, and the treatment will come now as surgical. So there may be a need for amputation of the infected leg to prevent sepsis, kasi baka kumalat siya. So since we are in the Philippines, osteomyelitis may be brought about also by TB organism. Again, could be hematogenous, direct extension, or true lymphatic. It may involve the spine, causing what we call past disease, but also may involve other bony tissues like the knees and hips. So these lesions tend to be destructive. They form granulomas, and particularly TB, they are resistant to control. So hindi pa ako nag-medicine, naririnig ko na problema na TB. Hanggang ngayon, malapit ng maging senior, TB pa rin ang problema natin. So it seems that we were not able to control yung TB. Maybe in the near future, sana magbago. So with past disease or involvement of bony structures, it may involve fractures and also may involve abscess formation. So here is the vertebra that's involved. Kung titingnan nyo, ito yung involvement niya, almost transversely affected na siya. So pwede siya bumigay. Kung ito ay buhay pa, pwede bumigay yung kanyang spine. So characteristically for TB, in any organ, yung involved is the formation of granulomas, mga epithelial cells in aggregate, together with characteristic multinucleated giant cells. We have the foreign body type and the Langhans type of giant cells. So aside from granuloma associated with TB, pwede rin merong granuloma associated with syphilis. So involvement of both in syphilis, so from Treponema pallidum and from Treponema pertenue, so lesions may be associated with the tertiary stage of syphilis and also in a congenital type of syphilis, wherein the bone lesions would appear during 5th month of development. So spirochetes tend to localize the area of active and contral ossification, causing osteochondritis, and in the periosteum causing periostitis. So with acquired bone lesions, so usually tertiary stage as mentioned, so they form associated with granuloma with bumas in the bony tissues. So it may involve the different areas, like the nose, forming a saddle nose deformity. In the extremities may form Sager sheen deformity produced by massive reactive cariosal bone deposition on the anterior surfaces of the tibia. So, by appearance, edematous granulation tissue, plasma cells, necrotic bone, and gumas. And spirochetes can be demonstrated in tissues through a special silver staining. So this would highlight the appearance of the spirochetes. Now let's go to bone tumors and tumor-like conditions. So many lesions may be primary, arising from the bony tissues. So for primary lesions in the bone, we have to include here the hematopoietic elements, because hematopoietic elements are contents of bony tissues. So when we talk of primary tumors, to include hematopoietic elements. But for discussion, we separate the bony tissues, the tumors arising from the actual bony structures, and those with that of hematopoietic elements, which is under the red blood cells and the white blood cells chapter. So here, when we talk of most common primary bone malignancy, excluding hematologic malignancy, then it would be osteosarcoma. But if you're talking of just malignancy commonly associated in the bone, it is a metastatic carcinoma. Carcinoma still have a higher frequency than sarcomas. So let's go to bone-forming tumors. So we have osteoma. This is a ocellated round to oval sessile tumors, usually arising or inside the skull and facial bones. Commonly seen in middle-aged individuals, and multiple lesions may be seen in Gardner syndrome. This is a composition of composite woven bone and lamellar bone, and they tend to be slow-growing. Osteoblastoma tends to be a benign lesion, less than 2 cm in size, commonly in teens and 20s, with predilection for appendicular skeleton that may be relieved yung pain with intake of aspirin. While osteoblastoma tend to be a larger tumor involving the spine, where pain is not responsive to salicylate. Both of these lesions, osteoblastoma and osteoblastoma, are seen with round to oval masses with hemorrhagic tongue tissue appearance. So randomly, they are seen with interconnecting trabeculae of woven bone that are ringed by osteoblast, and the stroma tend to be loose. So they may be treated conservatively by surgical excision. So if completely excised, there is least chance of recurrence. In some instances or literature, there are reports of malignant transformation, but it is rare. Malignant lesion of the bone. So we have osteosarcoma. So this is a malignant mesenchymal tumor. So the cancer cells or the tumor cells tend to produce bony matrix. It is the most common primary malignant tumor of the bone, excluding hematologic malignancy. The incidence of osteosarcoma is bimodal, so one in less than 20 years old and another peak at the elderly. More seen in males than in females. Generally, they are occurring in the knee region, distal femur, and proximal tibia. They are associated with genetic abnormality. We have the RBG allele mutation. So RBG, we encountered this in the retinoblastoma. So they are also associated with RBG mutation with osteosarcoma, together with TP53 and INK4A. So characteristic radiologic appearance with osteosarcoma is the presence of Hodgman's triangle. Okay, with the tumor arising in this region, it will push up the periosteal plate, causing a characteristic angle that is being formed. Osteosarcoma may be classified as to their origin, their degree of differentiation, and even their histologic appearance. So, histologic variants associated with osteosarcoma are the following: osteoblastic, chondroblastic, telangiectatic, small cell, and large cell or giant cell. So, osteosarcoma arising in the metabolism of long bones, they could be primary or solitary. They may be associated with formation of bizarre tumor giant cells. And the characteristic for this tumor is that the tumor cells produces bony matrix, formation of bone. So this may be lace-like in appearance, but sometimes there may be a mix with a malignant cartilage, and they may be called chondroblastic osteosarcoma. So here with characteristic appearance with lace-like pattern of bone formation, and in between are the tumor cells. So this is the tibia, distal femur. So there's mass, and this is the area of the tibia. So telangiectatic osteosarcoma, characterized by a blood-filled cystic formation. That's why in gross appearance, mapula siya, tend to be bloody in appearance. And under the microscope, here is the lesion. So manifestation in osteosarcoma, one would be pain with progressively enlarging mass. So with that mass in the area, it may be associated with pathologic fracture. As we mentioned earlier, Hodgman's triangle, a triangular shadow between the cortex and raised end of the periosteum. So treatment, since it's malignancy, usually amputation, but some may opt for limb salvaging surgery together with chemotherapy. So after bone forming tumors, we have cartilage forming tumors. So benign lesions, we have osteochondroma. So this benign hyaline cartilage cap outgrowth with a stalk. It is said to be the most common benign tumor of the bone and autosomal dominant inheritance pattern. So as mentioned, it is a polypoid-like structures that are covered by a cartilage. So it may appear a mushroom shape. The size could be small to a larger size, 1 to 20 centimeters, and could be fractured on the stalk because of the small stalk that is seen with this lesion. So here is a mushroom-like appearance, and the stalk is in this area that could be easily fractured. So we mentioned could be solitary or multiple, developed from bones of a chondral origin, arising from metastases near growth plate and nerve. So the imaging appearance of this cartilage cap bony growth. So aside from osteochondroma, we have chondromas, benign tumors of hyaline cartilage. We have enchondromas that arise in medullary cavity, multiple chondromas associated with Ollier's disease, sometimes also referred to as enchondromatosis. If it's associated with vascular tumor like hemangioma, it is called Maffucci syndrome, or it may be arising in particular area such periosteal or juxtacortical chondromas in the surface of bone. Enchondromas usually of less than 3 cm in size, and grossly, when you do a cut section, the cartilage would appear grayish blue in appearance. So these are nodules of benign hyaline cartilage. These are benign lesions. Mostly they are well circumscribed. of pricing of neoplastic chondrocytes. In the lacunae, they are usually of a benign lesion. Mostly, they are asymptomatic, but may also manifest with pain and pathologic fracture. Radiographically, they may present or be seen as C or O ring sign because of unmineralized nodules of cartilage produce a well-delineated ovallucencies that are surrounded by a ring of radiodense bone. Some reports or literature may say that there is occasions that may transform into sarcoma. Chondroblastoma, another benign lesion, tends to be rare with male predominance, with predilection for epiphysis and apophysis. Here, there is composition of polyhedral chondroblast with well-defined cytoplasmic borders that are arranged in sheaths. So, this condition or lesion, they may undergo calcification and produce characteristic chicken wire pattern of mineralization. Sometimes they may also be seen with non-neoplastic osteoclast type of giant cells. Then you have chondromyxoid fibroma, another brain cartilage tumor with well-circumscribed appearance with glistening tan green mass on cut section. So the appearance have a poorly formed hyaline cartilage together with myxoid tissue delineated by a fibrous septa, hence the name chondromyxoid fibroma. They may vary in appearance cytologically, and also they may be seen with non-neoplastic osteoclast type of giant cells. So here we have a chondrosarcoma. So this is now a malignant cartilage forming tumor. Sabi natin kanina, second most common primary bone tumor excluding hematologic malignancy is chondrosarcoma. So commonly seen age more than 40 years old with male predominance and usually involving the central skeleton, the pelvis, the shoulder, and the ribs. Like osteosarcoma, chondrosarcoma may be classified according to origin, size, appearance. Usually they may grow big, more than 10 centimeters, may be associated with its aggressiveness. Metastasis may go to the lungs and other areas of the skeletal system. Chondrosarcoma, they may be graded according to their appearance, cellularity, cytologic atypia, and mitotic activity. So low-grade chondrosarcoma, if there is mild hypercellularity, vesicular appearance of the chondrocyte, sparse or few binucleated cells, and also few mitotic tissues. So these are a characteristic for a low-grade type of chondrosarcoma. So chondrosarcoma may appear having a nodular growth pattern with endosteal scalloping via imaging or X-ray. They are painful, enlarging mass. Treatment would be to remove that malignancy. Kung hindi gusto ng amputation, then maybe limb salvaging again, surgical excision together with chemotherapy. So here we have chondrosarcoma that is of clear cell type. The malignant cells in between having a clear cytoplasm. And this is mesenchymal type of chondrosarcoma. We have also the differentiated type. Pag sinabi the differentiated type, there is no maturation or differentiation that is seen with these tumor cells. So they tend to be spindly in appearance. Sometimes when we say the differentiated, it's somewhat equivalent to sarcomatoid in appearance. Next group are fibrous and fibroceous tumors. So these are fibrous cortical defect and densifying fibroma as benign lesion. Fibrous cortical defect are said to be extremely common and believed to more of a developmental defect rather than a true neoplasm. They tend to be small, 0.5 centimeter, seen in children older than 2 years old. It may enlarge to 5 to 6 centimeter and develop into non-ossifying fibroma and usually not detected until adolescence. So these lesions, cortical defect and non-ossifying fibroma, may appear elongated and sharply demarcated lucencies that is surrounded by a thin zone of sclerosis. So they may consist of gray and yellow-brown tissue that are composed of fibroblasts and histiocytes. The appearance of the tumor cells, yung fibroblasts, may arrange in a storic form pattern para sila umiikot and sometimes referred also as a pinwheel pattern or arrangement of tumor cells. Another tumor arising from fibroblasts or fibrous tissue, we have fibrous dysplasia. It's a benign lesion, tend to be associated with developmental arrest. So all components are normal, but they do not differentiate into a mature structure. 3 types have been described: monostotic, polyostotic, and polyostotic associated with skin pigmentation and endocrinopathies. Generally, fibrous dysplasia are well circumscribed lesion, intramedullary, and may vary in its size. Their component, the fibrous or fibroblastic stroma that is interspersed by curvilinear trabeculae of Buben bone. So this curvilinear trabeculae of Buben bone may be sometimes referred to as a Chinese character appearance. Meron tayong Chinese brothers and sisters dito. O sino nagmamajong dito? Appearance na ano to? 1 character and 8 character. Tingnan nyo. Kasi 1, 2, dalawang linya, 3, tatlo, 4, yung pagkasulat, pero 8, para siyang wishbone. The different types of fibrous dysplasia, we have monostotic, 7% of all cases, involving the following bones from femur, jaw bones to humerus. Also, there may be craniofacial involvement, usually asymptomatic, but some with pain, fracture, and discrepancy in lead length. And they do not evolve into a polyostotic. Polyostotic, to a lesser extent, 27% of cases, they will involve also the following bones from femur, shoulder pelvic girdles, and craniofacial involvement as well. Polyostotic with skin changes, caveolae, skin pigmentation, and endocrinopathies, McCune-Albright syndrome. Lesser extent din ito kasi sa naunang dalawa, 3% of cases associated with this, and symptoms associated with polyostotic with endocrinopathies or skin pigmentation, sexual precocity, hyperthyroidism, pituitary adenoma, and primary adrenal hyperplasia. So, skin changes may be seen, dark to cafe-olate, have irregular serpiginous borders, and these are seen in the following areas: neck, chest, back, shoulder, and pelvic region. The fibrous dysplasia, typically they will appear radiographically with a ground glass appearance. So this ground glass appearance usually surrounded by a well-defined margin. So treatment is a benign lesion. We may perform a conservative surgery, just excise the lesion. And in some literature, there are reports of rare malignant transformation. Malignant fibrous lesions, fibrosarcoma, and some variants. So these are collagen-producing tumors, sarcomas, may be seen at any age. More equal incidence between male and female. More seen in middle age and elderly. Cytologically, they are comprised of malignant fibroblasts that are arranged in herringbone pattern. Malignant fibroblasts arranged in herringbone pattern. So this is an enlarging mass arising in the area of metastasis of long bones and pelvic flat bones. In other tumors with somewhat similar in appearance, we have Ewing sarcoma and primitive neuroectodermal tumor. So these are primary malignant small round cell tumor with similar neural phenotype, with neural differentiation in pinnet and undifferentiated appearance in Ewing sarcoma. So they may involve in translocation in cell pain genes involving the AWS gene. So Ewing sarcoma and primitive neuroectodermal tumor, they may arise in medullary cavity that may also involve the area of the cortex, periosteum, and soft tissues. So generally, this tumor would appear sheets of uniform small round cells with little amount of cytoplasm. Sometimes they may have clearing in the cytoplasm due to rich glycogen presence. They may also present with formation of Homer-like rosettes. Parang katulad noong Flexner-Winterstein rosettes. Kaya lang dito wala tayo rosette formation sa picture. So involving the area of the diathesis of long bones, the characteristic X-ray finding would be destructive lytic lesions with permeative margins. So the characteristic periostal reaction produces layers of reactive bone deposited in an onion skin pattern. So treatment, since this is a malignant lesion, surgical removal. So kung hindi amputation sa area ng extremity ang involved, then conservative surgery, pwede rin, with or without irradiation plus chemotherapy. Another lesion in the bone is giant cell tumor or osteoclastoma. So these are benign lesions but can be locally aggressive. Commonly 20 to 40 years old, may be composed of mononuclear cells with expression of rank ligand. Giant cell tumor is composed of large red brown tumors or lesions that may undergo cystic degeneration. They are composed of mononuclear cells and interspersed by scattered osteoclast type of giant cells. They may be associated with areas of necrosis as well as areas of hemorrhage that may be in later course may be seen having an hemosiderin deposition as well as reactive bone formation. So they will involve the following area: epiphysis and metaphysis in adult, metaphysis in adolescent. Mostly they are solitary lesions that may cause erosion in the subchondral bone plate. This is a lesion that may be having a benign behavior, so conservative surgery may be enough, and sometimes they negotiated with metastasis to the lungs. Aneurysmal bone cyst is a benign lesion comprised of a multiloculated lesions filled with blood. They tend to be rapidly growing and they may affect all age group but commonly in the first 2 decades. So aneurysmal bone cyst, so we have the cystic spaces that are filled with blood. So the wall may be composed of blunt uniform fibroblasts. There will be a multinucleated osteoclast like giant cells as well. The characteristic appearance radiographically for aneurysmal bone cyst, they have expansive lesion with a well-delineated margin. For CT and MRI, may demonstrate internal septa and characteristic fluid levels. So again, surgical mostly, and treatment, curettage or en bloc resection. But the most common malignancy in the bone is still metastatic carcinoma. We have here squamous cell carcinoma, bony tissues here. We have here adenocarcinoma, there is reminiscent of a glandular structures. Meron kayong makita mga lumen or abortive glands that are being formed. So metastatic tumors are still the most common form of skeletal malignancy, mostly carcinoma, brought about by direct extension, lymphatic and hematologic spread, intraspinal seeding. So usually, pag metastatic yung foci, they may tend to be multifocal. So the malignancy would arise mostly coming from sa male's prostate, female breast, then also we have kidneys and lungs for adults. Then for the young, we have neuroblastoma, Wilms tumor, or sarcoma, Ewing sarcoma, and rhabdomyosarcoma. Now let's go to the joints. So joints, so we have cavitated and non-cavitated joints. So non-synovial and synovial joints. Synovial would allow a wide range of motion. The synovial lining lacks a basement membrane and merges with the underlying connective tissues from. For synovial joints, they are filled with synovial fluid. You are finished with CD, na-discuss natin ito, with clear and viscous appearance of the synovial fluid containing hyaluronic acid that acts as lubricant as well as for nutrition. So generally, we have two lesions, osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, and juvenile rheumatoid arthritis have been mentioned in this chapter. So osteoarthritis, we have degenerative joint disease, most common type of joint disease with progressive erosion of articular cartilage. The condition tends to be insidious and appears with all age. So 5% may appear in young due to injuries, usually involving hips in men, knees and hands in women. There may be inflammatory cells that are present. So this may be initiated with biochemical and metabolic alterations accompanied with genetic susceptibility. So this is a multifactorial disease that has genetic and environmental components. Among these, aging and biochemical stress are very important factors. Additionally, obesity, muscle strength, joint stability are some other factors. So in osteoarthritis, there may be presence of injury. This injury may lead to proliferation and secretion of mediators, collagens, and proteases. So osteoarthritis may produce sloughing off at the surface of the cartilage, exposing the surface of the bone. Later on, with continuous area of injury, it will form a bone erosion wherein the surface tends to become smooth. There may be production of osteophytes, particularly in the spine. So these are bony outgrowth capped by fibrocartilage. Osteoarthritis may be manifested by fibrous wall cyst and formation of joint mice. Characteristic clinical manifestations of osteoarthritis are pain that worsens with use, morning stiffness, crepitus, limitations in range of motion, and may cause, sabi natin kanina, yung osteophytes may cause impingement or narrowing of the spinal foramina, causing a nerve root compression, may be leading to pain. So involvement of the different areas of the bone from hips, knees, lumbar, and cervical vertebra, the proximal and distal interphalangeal joint, the first metacarpal, as well as tarsal joint. So under osteoarthritis, characteristic Heberden stone formation may be seen, wherein there are osteophytes at the distal interphalangeal joint, mostly seen in women. For rheumatoid arthritis, this is a chronic systemic inflammatory disorders may affect the joints but also other organs as well. Characteristically, this is described as non-suppurative, proliferative, and inflammatory synovitis that may lead to destruction of articular cartilage. Just like the previous, remains unknown yung primary cause, but they associated with genetic, environmental, and autoimmunity. So here, commonly encountered between 40 to 70 years old, more in women than in men. Particularly involved are the joints with infiltration of synovial stroma with inflammatory infiltrate composed mostly of lymphocytes, the B and CD4 positive T cells. There is increase in vascularity due to vasodilation and angiogenesis. There may be presence of fibrin covering portions of the synovule and also floating in the joint space termed as rice valleys. So mostly involving the joint in rheumatoid arthritis, together with accumulation of neutrophils, pannus formation. So pannus is composition of granulation tissue. Ano nga yung granulation tissue? Fibroblast proliferation, angiogenesis, merong mga inflammatory cells. Kaya lang dahil nasa synovial tayo, meron tayong mga synovial cells and other components of the joint. So, usually, the pannus may form a bridge between opposing bones. Since ito ay parang granulation tissue, di ba ano nangyayari sa granulation tissue? Nagkakaroon ng healing, nagkakaroon ng deposition ng collagen. So, magkakaroon siya ng fibrosis in the area. So, form fibrous ankylosis, and later on, they become bone ankylosis. So, pag nag-form yun, mangyayari, limited yung range of motion. Hindi mo siya maigagalaw kasi nagkaroon na ng bone structure between the two opposing bone in that joint. So, it may involve the skin as well as the blood vessels, the skin formation of rheumatoid nodules. So, these are nodulation comprised by macrophages and other chronic inflammatory cells with central areas of necrosis, mostly fibrinoid necrosis. Then blood vessels may form inflammation leading to vasculitis. So we have pannus formation in the upper left. Then we have the rheumatoid nodule, characteristic appearance in the hand for rheumatoid arthritis. Then also here a form with pannus formation here. Then we have areas of hemorrhage that are bleeding there. So rheumatoid arthritis, the pathogenesis is not well established and believed to be an interplay with genetic susceptibility to a cryptogenic antigen with associated breakdown of immunological self-tolerance, chronic inflammatory reaction, leading to autoimmunity. So, associated genetic, environmental, as well as autoimmune factors leading to rheumatoid arthritis. In rheumatoid arthritis, the affectation would be symmetrical. The small joints are affected before the larger joints. So, involvement, having swollen, warm, and painful regions, and the radiologic hallmark would be joint effusion and juxta-articular osteopenia with erosion and narrowing of the joint space with narrow articular region. So diagnosis, we have the following criteria. We also have juvenile idiopathic arthritis, all forms of arthritis that develop less than 16 years old that persist for a minimum of 6 weeks. So, juvenile idiopathic arthritis may be classified to different subsets. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis is differentiated from rheumatoid arthritis by the following. Oligoarthritis is more common, systemic disease is more common, large joints are affected first than the small, rheumatoid nodules and factor are usually absent, and ANA seropositivity is also common. So other lesions that have been mentioned in our book would be ankylosing spondyloarthritis. So this is also known as rheumatoid spondylitis and Marie-Strample disease. This is a chronic inflammatory condition of eggshell joints, especially the sacroiliac region, and highly associated with HLA-B27 positivity at 90%. Another lesion is Reiter syndrome with a reactive arthritis characterized by triad of arthritis, gonococcal urethritis, and conjunctivitis. Also associated din siya sa HLA-B27 positivity at 80%. Infectious arthritis. So infectious arthritis, so these are lesions associated with infectious agents. So these may be from hematogenous spread or contiguous area involving osteomyelitis. So the etiologic agent, particularly bacterial, may be subdivided whether they are gonococcal or non-gonococcal. Other etiologic agents causing infectious arthritis are tuberculosis, Borrelia, and even viral infection. Now let's go to crystal-induced arthritis. So crystal-induced arthritis, we have gout and gouty arthritis. So gout, there is deposition of monosodium urate crystals together with a reactive inflammatory infiltration. Since these are considered foreign materials, there is a lot of inflammatory cells, macrophages. Macrophages will try to engulf. Some of these will form multinucleated giant cells of foreign body type. Hyperuricemia does not necessarily lead to gout, but hyperuricemia may predispose individual to formation of gout. So factors leading to this are age and the duration of hyperuricemia, genetic predisposition, history of alcohol consumption, obesity, drug intake, as well as lead toxicity. So kung natandaan nyo doon sa ating session sa CD, we have case there with alcohol and intake of thiazides, right? So by morphology, they are subdivided into acute arthritis, chronic to patient arthritis, tophi in various areas, and gouty nephropathy. Acute arthritis, neutrophilic infiltrates in the synovium and fluid. Chronic to patient arthritis, precipitation of urate crystal. Tophi in various sites, large aggregation of urate crystals with inflammatory cells as we described earlier. And gouty nephropathy may involvement na ng kidney. Clinically, sabi natin, associated with hyperuricemia. So usually, they have associated involvement of the big toe. Also, naandun sa ating isang case na CD. Clinically, they may be subdivided into asymptomatic hyperuricemia, acute gouty arthritis, intercritical gout, and chronic tophaceous gout. So yung una natin, morphology, ito naman clinical. So aside from gout, we have pseudo gout. So monosodium urate yung isa, ngayon naman calcium pyrophosphate crystals. So these are associated with autosomal dominant condition caused by germline mutation. Now let's go to soft tissue tumors and tumor-like condition. So una, tumors arising from fibroadipose tissue. So we have a benign lesion, lipoma, and its malignant counterpart, liposarcoma. Lipoma is said to be the most common soft tissue tumor in adulthood. So this is a tumor that's comprised of fibroadipose tissue, mature in appearance. They tend to be soft, mobile, and painless. So they may be there, and it could be how many years na andun lang siya stable, yung size. And they are cured by simple excision. Simple excision. So usually they are differentiated from the surrounding normal fatty tissue by a thin fibrous capsule. By a thin fibrous capsule. So the malignant counterpart is liposarcoma, one of the most common sarcomas in adulthood. More encountered between 40 to 60, tend to be uncommon in children, and they tend to be more arising in deep-seated regions of soft tissue. Also, in the retroperitoneal region, nasa malalalim sila nag-a-arise. So they may develop into a very large tumor size. And usually when we look at the cut section or histologic section, immature yung appearance. Bakit? Pagka mature, dapat yung nuclei push sa periphery. Ito, the nuclei you see, you can recognize some of them, yung nuclei nasa gitna. So, sometimes they may also be associated with presence of lipoblasts, which is an immature fat cell. Now we have fibrous tumors and tumor-like lesion. Some of these na-mention natin kanina doon sa fibrous tumor doon sa bone. Nodular fasciitis. This is an infiltrative and pseudosarcomatous fasciitis. Most common reactive pseudosarcomas. So hindi talaga siya tumor but most of a reactive condition. It's also, we have myositis specificans with a presence of a metaplastic bone arising in muscle. Fibromatosis could be superficially or deep-seated. Superficial may be seen in the plantar and palmar regions. It is composed of aggregation or fascicles of mature-appearing fibroblasts surrounded by dense collagen materials. Similar appearance may be seen in a deep-seated fibromatosis, also referred to as desmoid tumor, and may be associated with sporadic mutation in CTN and B1, and also familial adenomatous polyposis due to mutation or germinal mutation in APC gene. So they are predisposed with a deep fibromatosis. The malignant lesion from fibrous tissue, we mentioned fibrosarcoma earlier. So fibrosarcoma is composed of malignant fibroblasts that is arranged in herringbone pattern. While malignant fibrocytoma are composed of spindle-shaped fibroblasts, may be arranged in storiform pattern with large ovoid bizarre multinucleated tumor giant cells. Some of these tumor cells may resemble histiocytes. So we have fibrosarcoma. This is a malignant lesion arising in the area of retroperitoneum, thigh, knees, and distal extremities. They tend to be unencapsulated with infiltrative margin. And usually, the consistency, they are soft or fish flesh-like in consistency. So, medyo malambot yung kanilang consistency. While fibrocytic tumors, they may be benign, fibrocystoma, and malignant fibrocystoma. Yung benign fibrocystoma, also referred to as dermatofibromas. They are lesions growing in the surface portion, in the dermis and subcutis, painless and slow growing with proliferation of spindle cells in storiform pattern. While malignant fibrocytoma, they tend to be more pleomorphic in appearance with presence of bizarre multinucleated giant cells still in storiform architecture. So aside from these mesenchymal tumors that we mentioned, meron din tumors arising from the skeletal muscles and smooth muscles. Coming from skeletal muscles, we have rhabdomyosarcoma, most common soft tissue tumor of childhood and adolescence. Usually before age of 20, arising in the area of the head and neck and genitourinary tract. Rhabdomyosarcoma may involve dysregulation of muscle differentiation. There is presence of rhabdomyoblast, also called tadpole cells and strap cells. So usually these are large cells, elongated, with cross striations in the cytoplasm. Rhabdomyosarcoma may be classified as two embryonal, alveolar, pleomorphic types of rhabdomyosarcoma. Another tumor arising in the muscle or smooth muscle, we have leiomyoma. Its malignant counterpart is leiomyosarcoma. So leiomyoma, usually cross appearance, well circumscribed, firm masses with whirling pattern. So under the microscope, we could see similar whorling pattern composed of fascicles of smooth muscle cells with without atypia and no mitotic tissue. As compared to leiomyosarcoma, they tend to be also smooth, infiltrative borders. Microscopic wise, they are highly cellular. Numerous mitotic figures are seen. And last will be synovial sarcoma. Synovial sarcoma tend to be reminiscent of the normal synovial cells. So commonly arising or encountered between 20 to 40 years old. The cell of origin tends to be unclear. They could be monophasic or biphasic. Kapag biphasic sila, the hallmark would be the dual line of differentiation of tumor cells. That would be the last slide. Any questions so far?